Hello and welcome to our weekly talk show, The Interview, in our special segment on civil services. What does it mean to be the son of a famous father and the brother of an equally famous cricketer? How is it to protect a prime minister and look after the security of the Pope? Or to be sent on a posting because an elephant entered the Vidhan Sabha? Or dealing with Gabbar Daku? Many questions, but our guest today will answer them all. We have with us senior IPS officer turned strategist Yashovardhan Azad, whose introduction would be incomplete if we don't mention his father, Bhagwat Jha Azad, a politician who was at one time a young Turk. Yashovardhan Azad in this edition of HD's weekly talk show, The Interview, in our special segment on civil services. Welcome to the show, Mr. Yashovardhan Azad, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
Let me begin with a personal question. How's it to be a kind of a nobody, if you will allow me to use that term, in a family of well-known people? Father, an eminent politician, and brother, a well-known cricketer.
That's an interesting question. I certainly enjoyed their limelight and being in their shadow. In fact, our entire family was riveted around the exploits of Kirti as a young cricketer, and also my dad, who was a towering personality. And yes, we loved it all.
Why didn't you join politics? And you are perhaps the only one in your entire family to be in the services. Why and how did that happen?
I must say that I was enamored by politicians. And because of my father, I had met some of the biggest luminaries of those times in the early 60s.
Including Pandit Nehru.
Yes, including as a child when I met Pandit Nehru in Parliament House. It was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. Those days when we were kids, our hero in the early 60s was Chacha Nehru. And when I came first in my class and my dad asked me, "What do you want?" I said, "I want to meet him." He took me to the Parliament House. He met me for about 12 seconds, and those 12 seconds were my fame, as you would say. So I would say certainly meeting Vijaya Lakshmi Pandit, Morarji Bhai individually for a few minutes made a deep impact. But then in 75 was a very crucial year for me. And after I finished my MA, even Dad was asking my mother, "Ab inke kya karne ka irada hai?" So I appeared for the exam. There was nothing which was opening in politics, as it were, and Dad had made a strict rule that nobody will join. And so I joined the services.
Your brother Kirti Azad broke that rule.
That was much later. And that was when he had retired from cricket. And that was in the 90s, I remember. And he did it from a party different to my dad. In fact, he was the great friend with Advani's son, Jayant. And that was his entry into politics, but purely on his own merit, nothing to do with my father.
So Kirti was friends with Mr. Advani's son Jayant. Jayant did not really join politics, and Kirti made it big.
Kirti made it big, yes. And since then, of course, after winning an MLA seat, he won Darbhanga 3 times. Now, of course, he's in a different party.
Your father, Bhagwat Jha Azad, was a well-known, eminent politician. How did that impact you personally?
Well, that was a tremendous impact, I would say, on our lives, all 3 siblings, in the sense that he was really strict. There was nothing out of discipline one can do, right from getting up in the morning for yoga to almost everything which was under a specialized his scheme of things. And I would say that has stood us in good stead throughout our lives.
What were the negatives?
Negatives was that we never got a chance to enjoy anything. He was so strict that there was never a moment where he could sort of sit freely, though he loved us immensely. But we missed a lot of things in many ways which you expect from a parent.
So the father-son relationship was actually not there in one sense.
Yes, I think father-son's relation was missing to that extent.
Being a politician's son, how did that work? Was it a disadvantage or an advantage professionally and in your career in the later years?
I think professionally it was of no advantage to me because when I joined Madhya Pradesh, the BJP regime was there. So those were the formative years. And even later on, the kind of postings I got were nothing which you can call were favored postings. But it was a great thing to be his son. And I never regretted that I didn't take any advantage. In fact, those were the days which were different. You tried to hide it rather than flaunt it.
You were considered arrogant because you were Bhagwat Jha Azad's son.
Well, let's say I was arrogant with my seniors because I used to maintain my position. But I was more than friendly with my subordinates and peers because it gave me a tremendous feeling to lead my men. And arrogance because I had nothing out of the way which I had asked for. I didn't want anything extra from anybody. I never clamored for a posting. I never got one. And I was extremely happy. Whatever I got, that was okay. And I had many run-in where I was adversely affected, but it didn't matter.
While talking of your subordinates, you took on a minister because one of your officers came to you and said, "Meri izzat ko bahut ठेस पहुंची है." Tell me about that.
That's a very interesting episode in my life, I would say, because this was actually a constable. I think his name was Hafiz, and he rang me up and said that a particular order you had given. There was a district president of the Congress who passed by in his car, and when I told him, he said, "I'll catch you by your collar and throw you out with your uniform." And towards the end, he says, "Sir, baki to sab theek hai, meri izzat ko bahut ठेस पहुंची है." And so I took on that case and I framed charges against this gentleman. There was a minister of the state who rang me up twice, thrice. And I got into a great altercation with him. I remember he complained to Mr. Arjun Singh Ji, and Mr. Arjun Singh Ji wrote a letter to me. I apologized. I said, I can't, I have to stand firm in support of that person. If you are in the civil services, you don't only uphold your own dignity, but also the dignity of the lower staff with you.
While talking of politicians, you've had several run-ins with them. Take me through some of the interesting ones. And maybe the unpleasant ones, actually.
Well, the first one was pretty unpleasant, which became pleasant later when I was additional SP Bhopal. And there was a complicated case, a murder in which some people were accused, some people were arrested, some people were not. And I got a call from the revenue minister. He called me and he said that he thought that some more people should have been arrested. And I told him, "Sir, I have seen the case and please believe me that 7 are arrested and those 4 names were falsely put." And there was some kind of an altercation when he said that, I can get you transferred, I'm revenue minister. And something came out of my mouth, something funny, something sarcastic, which I shouldn't have said. And next day I was hauled up before the chief minister and he asked me and I gave him a truthful account. And he says, "I know everything about you. I'm not transferring you, you'll be here." I mean, I was shocked because I really knew that I'll be kicked out.
Any unpleasant ones?
Oh, plenty. I was DIG Bhopal and somehow the Home Minister hated me. For whatever reason, we were at a party together at MLA's place. He said something and I couldn't take it anymore, so I also blurted out. The same night, he was there at the Chief Minister's place, and I was just kicked out. And I was posted from DIG Bhopal to Director Youth and Sports.
So I was right when I said you were and perhaps are arrogant.
I don't know how you should describe it. As I said, I used to stand my ground on certain issues.
You were posted to Bhopal because an elephant went into the Vidhan Sabha.
Well, I was ASP Jabalpur. ASP Jabalpur is actually a nobody. He's somebody on training. Suddenly I heard that I've been promoted and going as additional SP Bhopal. So I was shocked because I had done nothing remarkable. Later on, when I joined and I was, doing my duty, my SP told me, he said, "Do you know why you were actually brought here?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "Actually, what happened, there was an agitation going on, Congress agitation going on. So it became a little mismanaged, and one elephant managed to get inside the Vidhan Sabha gates. So the additional SP is basically in charge of all the arrangements. Because of that, some scapegoat had to be found, and a new additional SP had to be located. So they looked around, they said, "This guy is okay," and that's how I was posted. So sometimes these promotions come by mistake. In my case, it has been mostly like this. Postings are of different kinds. I still remember in Bhopal itself, there was a case of the Shikar. And this was a gentleman, Congress Vice President's son was involved. And he was from Sagar and one of those Seths of Tendupatta, massive money. I remember getting calls from everyone in the land, including the governor, whom I knew very well. And I convinced him. I said, "Uncle, sir, I know, but it's a very convincing case." Finally, we got his son convicted.
Tell me, why is it always the Congress you got into trouble with, given that your father belonged to the Congress? So it should have been actually the other parties who were gunning for you. But from what I hear, from all the incidents that you've told me, it was always the congressman.
Yeah, I suppose, I'll tell you, many a times the complaints went to my dad too. But he had told me that just apply your mind. And he had virtually dissociated himself. In fact, Arjun Singh ji used to call me sometimes and ring me up. "Are you okay? Everything is all right?"
Yes, but my question still remains. Why is it that you always got into trouble with Congress guys?
Initially, when I joined, 3 years were BJP. The government changed, and I think throughout my tenure, it was the Congress government in Madhya Pradesh. And then again in the center, later years towards the end of my career, it was the Congress again.
Yeah, so it was congressmen who complained against you always.
Yes.
You handled during your tenure VIP security, and you looked after President Bill Clinton, you looked after Putin, and you also looked after the Pope during their visits here. Take me through those times.
The series of meetings which you have with them. I remember the 40 people from the US, apart from their US Secret Service and the Marines and the K9s. When you have a meeting like that, it really drains you. It's a kind of a coordination which you have to do, which is really tough. And some of the things which you learn are hilarious. That the most important thing was where Clinton would stand on that ladder so that the photograph would be so beautiful against the Agra sky and, with that. So ultimately it comes down to ridiculous after working so much. And then you have these demands coming from the office of Clinton. He wants to have coffee in a coffee shop. And we said, "Baba, this is not possible in India. We have so many people that there'll be a, overrun and we can't manage it." But interesting things, he went to Agra, he went to Jaipur. In Jaipur, in Amar Vilas Palace, where he was landing, we have these rules that helicopters cannot go after, evenings and things like that. And there he was on bullock cart, the flashlights were there, and his helicopter landed straight. Putin, of course, the Russian security men are so tough. They look at you as if they're going to beat you up. That's a little tougher.
You also protected the Prime Minister. Take me through that time.
Yes, I was Secretary Security, and at my time, Mr. Manmohan Singh was there. Mr. Manmohan Singh, being the kind of a giant intellectual, so disciplined, so courteous to a fault, there can never be anything interesting about him. So, we all used to look up to him as a real grand old man, which he is.
President Kalam?
President Kalam was a superman. I remember meeting him when he was a greatest scientist, where I went to apprise him of a threat, and I advised him. I said, "Sir, would you still like to go?" And I still remember he asked me. He says, "Will you protect me?" I said, "Sir, we'll use all our might to protect you. Decision is yours." And he went. A very brave man. As a president, when we used to travel with him, we used to be amazed with his childlike innocence. I remember we were going to Tanzania, and suddenly in the hotel, when we reached his room, everyone had gone. So I was there at the last to see that everything is all right. Suddenly he says, "Look, look, look, look at the sky there, that ocean." I was amazed.
Which are the moments in your career which you would like to forget or wish had never happened?
Whenever you join an organization, you aspire to reach the top, especially when it's due. I joined the Intelligence Bureau in '97, and I made my way up, additional director, special director, and the time was just coming when I was supposed to, and I hoped that I'll become Director Intelligence Bureau. I didn't make it. I was superseded. That was the worst period of my life. And those 2 weeks, I just collapsed. That's the first time ever it has. It had a very, very bitter memory for me.
Tell me the story of Gabbar Daku, who said he will surrender to you because you are among those police officers who would not kill him in an encounter.
Sagar and Gwalior were the two anti-dacoity, centers. I was posted there to take care of the student problem, basically. But then this anti-dacoity campaigns used to keep going on. And there were the big ones who were considered the big IPS officers who had made major, gains in killing dacoits or apprehending. I was not one of them. I was a very ordinary IPS officer. But one was so fed up with the depredations of Gabbar. He was doing kidnapping, he was doing, killings. Finally, I had a great friend in Harnam Singh Rathore, who was a BJP MLA. And one day, the next day when CM was coming to Sagar, Harnam gave a message to me at night that Gabbar wants to surrender before you. I said, "Why? Are you sure?" Because I didn't believe it. I think there was 5,000 or 10,000 reward over him, which was pretty good in the 80s. So he says, "No." He said that he will, spare me if I surrender before him. So
that means not kill me.
Not kill me, yes. So we went to the Banda. Banda is a police station, there's a subdivision in the jungles. And there Gabbar Singh came, surrendered with his 3 weapons. We brought him to rest house. He wanted to visit the Mahadev Mandir. And next morning, he surrendered before the Chief Minister. Chief Minister was extremely happy. I kept telling the Chief Minister that there is this BJP MLA, his real role is there. But of course, CM was too happy to hear all this.
What are your views on encounter killings, particularly in the context of Atiq's son Asad being bumped off, who was kind of a victim?
Yeah, it's a related question. See, Kumkum, I have 2 views on, 2 parts to this. First is, in a broken criminal justice system, which we have, and when I'm talking about criminal justice system, we are talking about prosecution, prison, judiciary, and the police, where cases are, are resolved in 20 years. The case against Atiq of 2003 or something, 20 years later, they are not resolved. In this case, if the people applaud, I don't know whether to blame them or not. encounter is not the way out. Encounter is certainly not the way and by encounter I mean false encounters. There are genuine encounters too. Encounter should not be one-sided. It should not only be against certain caste or religion. It should not be in particular areas. If, for example, in UP again, the encounter against Atik and his killing is a very slipshod arrangement by the police. There's somebody who has been in your safe custody. He cannot be killed. It's your responsibility. And that's why the inquiry will reveal what actually happened. But I would say that it was the fault of the UP police in not protecting him.
You were also sent by the Indian government to Pakistan. What are the bitter experiences?
Bitter and sweet both, I guess. I think from the civil services point of view, I would say the tremendous respect and regard one which got from the fellow officers from that side. I remember as DIG Lahore Duggar inviting me to address the police officers of Pakistan, where he made me sit in the Lahore Commandant's office and the first foreign police officer to sit down and sign the register. And then a reception given by his band playing Awara Hoon and all the Raj Kapoor tunes. That was one great experience. The bitter experience was that you saw Pakistan during Musharraf period, all because of dictatorship, the law and order was okay, everything was okay. And yet people, the middle class, which was yearning for more ties with India, that was a unique experience, which I thought. And then the third thing I would say was to see the human side of these great stars, cricketers, where Tendulkar kept asking you questions about jammers, about this, all kinds of instruments being used in security setup. And somebody like Rahul Dravid, who would like to come with me to see the museums and Arkali Bazaar and sit in Atchison College beneath a tree for 3 minutes because next day he had an important batting to do. So these were very, very interesting times.
Why and what is DeepStrat? I know it's deep strategy, something which I would use the word floated, while you're going to say, I formed this. So what is it?
Yes, you're right. I think after I retired from the commission, and a few of us, a few of my friends from the foreign services, IAS, some of the specialized experts, we formed this DeepStrat. DeepStrat is a kind of a think tank which delves in risk assessment for the various companies. It deals with public policy issues. It deals with cyber security, offering networking solutions and all that. And it has given me a tremendous kind of, fulfillment, and to my team to be with this for last 1 year.
While on cyber security, where has the government gone wrong?
Well, I would say that government has not gone wrong. It's a little slow. We don't have a national cyber security policy. There are cyber security attacks which are coming from across. The PLA has established hackers from China who keep attacking our cybersecurity loopholes. We need to do much more. There is an NCI-PC, the core, infrastructure which is being protected, but a lot needs to be done.
What about the privacy bill? Is the government listening?
We are not very happy with the Data Protection Board, for example. How is it being constituted? Whether it will have the requisite autonomy or not? Whether the right people will be appointed or not? And the most important, objection I have with the privacy bill is that it goes directly against the RTI, where by removing one provision, the whole focus on the anti-corruption drive is going to be weakened. So that's exactly our objection with them.
So you have written to the government, you have knocked the door, but is the government listening?
Well, we have done our part. It's up to the government now to listen to us or not. We have even said there should be more deliberation, but they have said that it will be brought in the next the Parliament session.
Finally, what are the lessons learnt and unlearnt, both professionally and personally, in your career and life?
Professionally, I think the most important thing I've learned is that to keep your spine straight and speak bluntly the truth. That has been my policy. I have lost quite a bit, but I'm very happy that I stood firm.
Mr. Yashovardhan Azad, thank you for being here and thank you for your time.
Thanks, Kunku. Thank you.
And with this, we conclude our series on the civil services, but we will soon be back with a new segment. So don't tune off and keep watching HD's weekly talk show, The Interview.